National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, presents a Bravo video event, the Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice. And on today's show, life insurance underwriting with Chief Underwriter Kathy Fell. And now the host of the Business Insurance Zone, the whiz of the biz, insurance columnist Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and of course we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals right out of Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, Chief Underwriter, and I feel like genuflecting, Kathy Fell from AXA. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much.
Every time I've had underwriters on here before, and I'm not usually happy. Okay, so I hope today, when we're done with our show, I will be a happy person. Right?
Well, we're certainly going to try to make that happen.
Well, now I hate to say this because this kind of tips us off on our, what age group, are we boomers, are we not, but how long have you been an underwriter?
Steve, that's a little like asking a lady her age.
I know,
I'm afraid.
But we're trying to qualify you. Are you senior? Have you been around? Have you seen every single thing in underwriting?
I have been around.
So you've seen everything.
2 decades plus, and I'm not going to admit the actual age.
Okay, but 20 years
Yes.
playing with APSs, mind-numbing APSs.
Mind-numbing.
Yes, okay.
No.
Well, when I think about it, 20 years, you've seen a lot. I mean, this business has changed.
It has.
I mean, I came in here
It
30
has.
years ago. It was standard or smoker. That was it.
That's
right?
exactly right.
I didn't even need to draw blood, use urine samples for $500,000 when I first came into the business.
Correct.
Now we are micromanaging this, and I mean, we're looking at everything now. And I'm kind of enjoying some of the new things. Like I noticed that we're kind of going away from treadmills now.
Yes,
Seems
we
like
are.
we're pulling away from that.
Certainly.
But we're really managing APSs, and the other thing that I've noticed in my career is we are really micromanaging lifestyle credits. We're going to get into all this for the show today, but all these changes, if you've seen changes, what would you say is the most significant change since you've been underwriting the last couple decades?
There's no doubt that the major change to our industry was the blood profile. Without question, the introduction of that allowed the preferred classifications to be born.
Mm-hmm.
Without the ability to look at cholesterol the way we do, break it down into HDL, LDL, all of that, CDTs, PSA, all of the blood profile information has allowed us to blossom.
Well, most of us that are in the field are not really medically aficionados. I mean, we're just not.
I'm shocked, but okay.
Well, I am, of course. I'm just saying at large. I've been into 30 years. I've picked up a few things over the day. I've noticed, though, I just saw, we just broke out on our website. We have this on our website. If you want to go out to www.brokersalliance.com, you can pull down our cholesterol chart, which breaks down every carrier, including AXA, and it breaks it down from super preferred, preferred plus, preferred on what cholesterol rating, HDL, all that has to do with it. And to me, we are managing this thing into the ground now. That's why I'm always so shocked. We have all these categories to do this, and now we're looking at on top of all this. I've also noticed, and I'm just telling you what I've noticed outside. I'm wondering if you guys have went this way. I noticed family history isn't as big a deal as it used to be either.
Well, family history and the age, it depends on the age. The preferred classifications are there more from a pricing standpoint than from an underwriting standpoint. The difference between cholesterol of 215 and 225 is not really a mortality call. It's that breakout that allows us to put that pricing out there. But, technically, if you look at the number of classes compared to what it was 20 years ago, I mean, when we first got into the business on these classifications, companies had 16, 8 different kinds of breakouts, and it's playing into our ability to break down society and give certain age groups certain kinds of protection and therefore pricing. But it really isn't about direct correlation to mortality.
Well, I've noticed that we've kind of, not that we're drifting completely away from family history, but there are, when I get above 65 and I'm still alive, I don't know if I'm going to get dinged anymore for this issue.
I think you will. I mean, I think family history is one of the biggest.
Contraire to Steve. You say different.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Now, are you saying industry, or are you speaking because of your own underwriting?
I would be speaking industry at this time.
Well, I want to know why I should pay for the sins of my fathers. I'm just curious. You know, people are out there going, I had just had a case. The gal was 33, excellent condition, super preferred in every category, but mother died of cancer, and she died early in her 50s, so it was an issue. And I said, I'm sorry, but I can't give you the super preferred. And
you were shocked by that?
And I was shocked by that because I thought she's so young, the distance between her and their mother's death. And most of my agents and producers that are watching this now, we all come to that same, what I would call layman's uneducated view, right? And I just say, wow, you know, what happened there?
Well, I'm afraid we're all a combination of two people who came together, right? You have blue eyes or brown eyes. Probably you have brown eyes. Yes, you have brown eyes. Do those belong to your mother or to your father?
Well, my dad has blue eyes and my mom has brown. So,
How's your mom's health? Good?
I wouldn't use that word good, no.
No, I'm sorry. But there's definitely a component of those two people inside of you. We come together for a genetic pool.
I'm just struggling, though, still, Kathy, with the idea of she's 33 years old. I mean,
I
that seems so young. And most of our viewers are saying the same thing. And if you're out there today and you say, why should family history have an impact? Well, there is some mortality markers that are built inside these things, and this is why underwriters have to look at these issues.
Of course.
So some family history, it sounds like we're going to still be playing with family history for a little while.
We are.
I was kind of hoping that we'd come on the show with a revolutionary statement and say, hey, guess what? Heads up, no more family history. Well, that's not going to happen. Well, other things that are happening today in underwriting, I've noticed, besides treadmills, x-rays, not really big deal that much like it used to be. But another thing that we're looking at, when I'm talking about underwriting a case, and I always like this because when I get into this, everybody has a little problem with this. We get into what can I do from a business decision, retention, what are my automatics, and what are my reinsurance, and how do you play with facultative? Now, to break this down to some areas, let's do retention. What can AXA do without going outside and sharing any of the risk that they're willing to do because of their financial strength?
Well, and you've hit the nail on the head. The financial strength of our company has allowed us the luxury of having a retention of $20 million on single life products and $25 million on joint life products.
Okay, just for everybody to heads up to just make sure what Kathy just said, they can write this ticket without sharing the risk, calling up other underwriters to see what their protocols and procedures are. They don't have to agree with them. They can do this within their own confines of the company.
Correct.
So I think 25 million, 20 for individual.
20 for
And now
individual.
does that get a little smaller as the age group
It
gets a little higher?
certainly does. Industry standard, the higher the age, the higher the table rating.
And
the
your
less
automatic
the
treaties, how
retention.
far up can I go on that?
65 million, the additional 40 or 45 to a 65 million jumbo limit.
I'm just curious, and if you can't answer this, it's okay, but now I have my curiosity. What is the biggest face amount case you've ever underwritten through AXA? Just a face, I won't say.
It was probably the scariest day of my professional life, signing off on a personal case of $300 million in a line. But that was years ago, Steve. That was years ago.
$300 million.
$300 million.
To me, those are mammoth scores, and I don't think that case went through our office. I'll check with the AXA
You know,
wholesaler. I'm not sure that went through our office.
Only because I didn't know you then.
Gosh, if I'd have just been known I had a $300,000, can I ask this? What was the premium?
You can't ask
all right.
that. But thank you
I
for
appreciate
trying.
Jumbo limits at 65 as well? 65 million at jumbo limits?
65 million of jumbo limit, yes.
Yeah. So when I get above jumbo, where are we going for 300 million? That sounds like, what do? You're past your limits.
We have our partners, the people who help us to do business every day. Our reinsurance partners, we have a strong relationship with 5 at this time. Our auto pool reinsurers are exactly the same outlets we use for our facultative.
And
So the reinsurers,
Who are you using now then? Just talk about
Who
those
are we
guys.
using
Yeah,
now?
who are those guys?
SCORE, RGA,
RGA, yeah.
Swiss Re,
Swiss Re,
Transamerica,
Trans,
yes, and I said RGA, I'm missing someone. Who am I missing? That's not good. Hanover,
Gen Re.
Gen Re.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
When I think about these people here, have you ever noticed that one seems a little bit more benevolent than the other, or not really? The manual is the manual.
Oh, I don't think so. The experience level and just like understanding that underwriting is an art for every underwriter who sits in our industry, on the reinsurance side, that's also the significance of having a relationship. The more that you can convey to an underwriter, the better your offer is going to be. People think that's the, contrary to
that
where
might be
it
a little
is,
ahead of
but-
my thing, but I want to go right after that. Writing cover letters to underwriters. I mean, I've learned to write, when I'm talking to AXA, I like to write my cover letters in French, just to offset me from all the other IMOs, right? And I'm just wondering how much does that help an underwriter? I'm writing you a cover letter on the situation. You already have the APSs, you have all the specs on the Chem 24 exam. Does that really help?
Of course it does. I think one of the biggest mistakes that some young producers might get into is the ability to retain information that they've gotten at the point of sale. And not share it with the underwriter. The more the underwriter can understand about the purpose of the coverage, about the product that's being involved, about anything that you know about the client on a personal level, that can really tell the story in a way that allows an underwriter to have the ammunition to give you the best option-oriented solution that they can. I think the 39 underwriters at AXA who service the brokerage market are, without question, oriented that way, and they appreciate anything they can get from a cover letter. Is it necessary? No, but does it help a case? Every time.
Would you say if I was going to write a good cover letter, and I've written some sagas in my time, I must say. I mean, the biggest one I've ever written cover letter was a 17-page whopper. I had to explain everything up and down the food chain of heredity because it was a major estate case and all the players that would be involved, the beneficiary issues. It was a thesis, okay?
Thank you.
Now, and I didn't know you, otherwise I would have sent that to you and I would have converted it into French. That case went, and the underwriter calls me back and said, that case was bigger than the guy's AP. My cover letter was bigger than the guy's APS. I said, which is shocking. But really, I want to learn how to be a good wordsmith. I want to learn the language of the underwriter, learn how to smith that out on a nice 1 or 2 page explanation, and target what are you looking for in that. And when you're looking for it, not only you want to be honest, you want to do full disclosure. I want to be able to say, here's how I arrived at the death benefit, if it's financial justification. I want to be able to put this in a letter, in a format, in a way that the underwriter understands what I've just said, and then sign off on it. Before we leave the subject, any last things that you see when you're writing a letter?
The most important thing you can do, particularly for financial justification, which is so important in our industry now. Certainly when we were talking about history before, we saw small face amounts were associated with those non-requirement scenarios. Well, now we have humongous amounts of insurance being underwritten in our industry today, and certainly by AXA. And when you get into the body of the sale, it's really explaining that financial justification, telling us why the client needs this insurance can help us get you there every time.
Well, we're going to come back with Kathy Fell, Chief Underwriter for AXA, and talk about not only love letters to the underwriter, which we just talked about, we're going to be talking about everything that is to do with placing that case and getting it done. We'll be right back after the break and a word from our sponsor.
Whether you're a professional planner pursuing a strategic partner or an insurance distributor seeking a national alliance, your business just went into overdrive. Now enter the largest resource of insurance products and services with unparalleled access to a worldwide audience of consumers through the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, who can take your company and launch it into the stratosphere of success. With countermeasures, the most comprehensive carrier intel in the industry, the MASH unit with field triage underwriting and the premium tolerance test, the life insurance financial evaluation, the most rigorous policy review, and Bravo high-definition broadcasting with online social media. Your search just ended.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, insurance columnist, financial color commentator, and at least in my own mind, interviewer extraordinaire. Before you move forward with anything on our show, always check in with your CPA, your tax attorney, and if you're FINRA licensed, don't forget to touch base with your compliance officers. Remember, you can call us on anything on quotes or questions on life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, group pension plans, 1-800-290-7226, extension 147. It's not what I know, it's who I know, and that's why I have top-of-the-line underwriter, and one of my favorite underwriters, I must say, Kathy Fell from AXA, talking about underwriting. All we want to do on this show is learn the world of underwriting so we can place that case. I want to place the case, AXA wants to place the case. Right?
Goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Now, remember there's a lot of rumor out there that you guys are case killers.
Case killers?
I know. They call you guys the undertakers.
Bring them on.
Bring them on. Well, okay, you heard it. From now on, I want to see the dead, the dying, the postponed, the heavily rated, and we're sending it all to AXA. No, I'm only kidding.
Oh.
I'm only kidding. Okay, that was just a little humor, compliance humor, just a little.
Thank you.
Probably very little in there. It's okay. Let's do this. Kathy, I want to talk about where do you think the wheelhouse is for AXA underwriting? Where do you think your expertise, what do you see that you maybe are a little differentiate between other underwriters and by disease issues or maybe even multiple issues, impairments?
Certainly. Well, first and foremost, when you think of AXA and AXA underwriting, I think the three things that stand out are expertise. Our underwriters have an average of 22 years of experience on the floor. They're well-known, they're humorous, you have a good time when you call them. Case design is their love.
Oh, wait. Humorous.
Yes.
No, humorous underwriting.
Yes.
When I talk to you, yes. But most of the underwriters I talk to are dry. They have the IQ of 140, but they have a personality of a brick.
You certainly have not been hanging out with AXA.
I guess we are sending everything to AXA from now on because I love conversations that are colorful, and I haven't been getting them except for with you.
Huh.
So, Kathy, tell me, what do you think we play? Where does AXA play? Anything, any disease or anything you look at really well?
Well, before we go to disease, and I know you keep pushing me in that direction, but I'm going to tell you that the other two strengths of AXA, besides expertise, are that large capacity we talked about earlier, and then we have something called a Good Health Credit Program, which is giving credit where credit is due, and it is one of the lifestyle kinds of crediting programs that you've heard about from other people in their industry, competitors, but I think ours is unique in the sense that it really gives a tremendous amount of options that are associated with things like aerobic exercise, routine health screenings, it's certainly looking at all the coronary risk factors, but it allows anyone coming to AXA to get as much as 50 credits from this kind of programming. It really allows us to tailor the case for the best possible offer. That can be applied from Table D to all the way to Standard Plus, preferred classification.
Now that's a little bit of an anomaly, right? Because most people they're doing their shave programs or their reduction programs from C down, but you guys actually go to Table D, right?
Well, not only that, we go as high as age 75. The majority.
That's 5 years over. That's right.
That's exactly
so
right.
let's just repeat. We go to age 75, which is an anomaly, as well as we go to Table D. Okay, well.
It's also per life before you leave it.
What do you mean?
In other words, if you have a survivorship case, how many lives are involved? This is not a test.
I had a case with a schizophrenic that we tried to file with 2 lives.
Okay.
And I'm not kidding. But
Hey,
yeah, we
if
found
they're
out it was
both-
only a single guy.
That can result
The underwriter
in
asked
4
me, this is
tables
true.
off.
The underwriter said this, he goes, but did you see the clients at the same time?
I'm going to put that question on my app.
That'll be my app, yes. Yes, I noticed you guys look similar in your change of clothes, but they were never in the room at the same
Never
time.
in the room.
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean to be persistent in my pestings, but I want to
But you
know
will.
where your area is because everybody's listening to this and they say, hey, listen, I got a client in this area. This is your wheelhouse. Give me a few that you like.
Be happy to. Professional sports, high-profile entertainers, people of that.
Am I going to
stop on
get?
by.
Can I get underwriting credit for you being on my show for my personal physiology?
Absolutely.
I'm there.
There you are.
Super preferred.
Uh,
Okay. Well, okay.
but I'd be happy to try.
So professional athletes, I love that. Entertainers, I'm assuming that
Entertainers.
aren't taking illicit drugs. And who else?
I think when you think of that, and when you think of AXA, again, AXA's really only been in the brokerage community for about 10 years. So knowing that, our capacity is untapped. So that retention piece, that 20 million and 25 million we talked about, there are a lot of clients out there who are maxing out the capacity that's in the marketplace today. And
So you got a lot of headroom.
right, we have a lot of headroom, and we have a lot of capability, and that's where it plays into that particular market. Those professional sports. We certainly all medical impairments are definitely part of expertise that we carry in our shop today. I can name a few things that we're particularly good at: coronary artery disease, sleep apnea, gastric bypass. The ability atrial fib with ablation, those kinds of things. After 2 years, you might be able to consider for a preferred classification.
Have
so
you seen
things like that?
Have you seen underwriting going, Kathy? If I wanted to try to mitigate my costs, could I trade like a table rating for a flat extra? You know, does any of that going on in the back rooms anymore?
I'm afraid that's a product question. It's not really an underwriting question. Flat extras are usually designed on a temporary or a permanent basis, based on the the mortality. So we don't traditionally do it that way.
But when you price a temporary flat, you're just looking for a risk that's immediate, generally the 4 or 6 years or whatever it is. And have you seen the use of flats? Is it still about the same, or no? You've seen a little bit of pullback. They're just using the tables.
I've seen a change. Definitely not a pullback. I mean, cancer obviously is the kind of impairment that relates best to temporary flat extras, but I don't see a pullback. I really don't. We've just examined our manuals recently, and I'm seeing definitely a trend in perhaps the way the risk is applied, based on studies that are going on all the time. That's where reinsurance partners are extremely important. We got a lot of information from
What
them.
about, I noticed I got a couple questions from a couple of guys that knew I was going to have you on here, and they want to know about what I call ancillary APSs, like cosmetic surgery that has nothing to do with what we're underwriting. We still have carriers that demand everything that, that we have. Do we still have to do that even though it is really kind of an outlier APS?
You know, the funny thing about brokerage community is that it's gotten away from allowing the underwriter to decide. In the interest of speed of process, a lot of carriers, a lot of BGA offices are ordering as many APSs up front as they can. Obviously, the face amount of the risk plays into whether we should pursue every single APS. Obviously, the higher it goes, the more that would save you time.
Have you
But
seen any change
no.
even in financial underwriting?
I have, definitely.
Which way are we going on that?
I'm afraid, again, I think the waters are going to have to calm off of our sad part in history that had to do with investor-owned life insurance activity. And I think that financial justification and financial investigation certainly got strengthened after that period. But the huge benefit, at least at AXA, is that we have the capability of using a lot of public record information that keeps the producer from having to go back and ask questions. So we try to employ that as often as possible, and it's definitely a tool that can be used at the higher face amounts.
Well, I've noticed because we've really had to up our game. I mean, I'm almost like I'm ordering 1040s, I'm ordering full net worth statements. We're really getting into it now. And the good thing about this is, and I just bring this as a heads up as a sales tactic, we used to say, oh, that's too much information to collect. Why do we have to do all this? But yet, if we're really planners, I need that information anyways.
You do.
And I really need to plot what I think is going to be the longevity for retirement modeling, for estate modeling. All those things are going to have to be incorporated anyways. So when they ask for it, I just blame it on the insurance people. Hey, they're asking for it. It's not me. They got to do it. Now, I noticed when we're doing cases, I talked about this in my brief when I wrote you an email prepping for our show. 1035. There's a myth out there, and I just want to make sure I get this right. A 1035 generally, especially if it's a good chunk of change, is going to reduce the net amount at risk. If it reduces the net amount at risk, is 1035 and or the client dumping extra money, is that going to mitigate the underwriting decision?
Certainly not. I mean, obviously you have to have the capacity to make sure that the risk is covered at claim time. You know, it's about where are those monies going. You know, we owe non-forfeiture options, all of the activity that goes to telling us what's going to happen to those funds at dispersal is going to influence the amount that we're underwriting. But not from the question of the higher the 1035, is it going to better the offer? No, absolutely not.
I was just looking, if I had a level death benefit and I put in 300, I just saw this case, 300,000 1035 on $1 million coverage, my net amount at risk would be 700,000. The actual number is less, even though the actual same requirements are there, nothing's changed in underwriting. But does that ever become a bubble issue at all? So you're Does it help or?
It doesn't really help. I mean, it can, depending on the options. It depends on where the funds are going to end up. But you've also got to think in terms of how are the reinsurance treaties coordinated with how you're paying for additional risk from them per chance. We're not controlling those funds. So if in fact you have a level amount at risk, that's what you're underwriting to, then that would be taken into some consideration in some ways. But frankly, it's the initial level death benefit that controls the scenario. You have riders that can also influence the amount, but it's the net amount at risk that the underwriter cares about most.
Well, we're with Kathy Fell from Chief Underwriter with AXA. We're talking about this show about underwriting and trying to give us an update on it. And as we know, we hit the fourth quarter, we always do our special Halloween special on impaired risk, Tales from the Crypt. You'll want to see that in October. When I'm talking about AXA, you need to think about them when you think about underwriting expertise. We partner with Kathy Fell. She's the best, one of the top and most articulate underwriters we have. We know if it can get done, we can get it done with Kathy. Well, remember, you can view and download this show and all our shows in beautiful HD 1080p. Go right out to our on-demand site on our website, www.brokersalliance.com, and of course on all our social networks, Vimeo, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course, Facebook. I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. That's all we have on the biz for today. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone.
This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. Need insurance guidance? Call Brokers Alliance. The Business Insurance Zone, dedicated to financial professionals who use insurance in their practice.